Hi, welcome to Socrates Explains Everything. I want to talk a little bit today about flight. Is flight a thing? Do things really fly? Have you ever flown? That's what we're going to talk about. So we're going to talk a little bit about how birds evolved flight. A quieter, more relaxed version of that. In my opinion, the bird went from being a bird-like dinosaur to a dinosaur-like bird, or vice versa, by developing some stages that particular duck actually showed me a while ago. It's a black duck with a white nose. It's very common here in the Netherlands. And one day during the spring, I think it must have been protecting its young because it basically attacked me using aggression. It basically flapped its wings against the water really loud, and it drew my attention, and it really startled me. And I think the idea was to protect its young. It was very effective. But it realized that this very useful technique of flying just on the surface allowed a bird-like dinosaur that swam under the water using its wings as flippers, essentially, the way many birds still do today. Cormorants and many ducks, they basically fly underwater. So to become an actual flying bird using the same basic techniques, I have no idea what that noise was, and but I know what this next noise is. Can you hear that? That's a really wild sound. But the 747 is going to drown me out. So anyway, what you have is a situation where a bird-like dinosaur begins to become more of a dinosaur-like bird. By doing so, evolution. I'm talking. So, this bird-like dinosaur is swimming along the surface of the water and also using its arms as flippers under the water. And once it starts to use them on the surface, making this flop, 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 flop noise, which that duck still does, you've begun the process of becoming a flying bird. And because there's a thing called ground effect, which takes effect in the first, the width of your wingspan is the height of ground effect. So if it's a 1 meter bird, the first 1 meter of altitude, it's much easier to fly. And this mid-stage of being on the water, flapping your wings to make noise, allows it to take the next step, becoming a full-fledged ground effect bird. It can't fly in full height, but it can fly in ground effect. And the reason this would happen, you see, is if you look at the water, it's very flat and very open. And the reason water would become your main starting point is that the easiest place to fly is cold, damp air. And on the surface of a lake, the water's going to be the air is going to be damper, and it's going to be a little bit denser, and that makes it much easier to fly. And so this is the perfect place to evolve flight. And over time, you would probably build some sort of giant metal bird. And that bird would fly in the air and make a lot of noise. And if you're sitting underneath one of those birds, whoo, you ain't gonna be heard very easily. No. But it's still a very peaceful place, you know? People live right here too, isn't that crazy? A friend of mine lives under the flight path. What's up, Mata? And so that's how birds develop flight. By becoming a strange, those noises that follow the airplanes. There's it's like a ripping sound. It's very strange. It's the chemtrail. All right. Some guy on a bike. See? It's strange. It's like the air from the airplanes. I wonder if that picks up on the phone or not. That's definitely from the backs of the airplanes. Very wild. I hate to be a bird flying and woo. So that's how I think the birds develop flight, from a swimming duck-like creature that then used its wings as flippers and some of them got better at using them on the surface of the water, making plop, 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 plop noises to protect their young, and then that's very useful, it's an evolutionary advantage. And to get a little better at it, you can break into ground effect in the perfect place to find ground effect on a water lake or pond where the air is nice and cool and damp, which is thick and easier to fly in ground effect. And ground effect, as I say, is a height that's equal to your wingspan. So if it's a half-meter wingspan, the first half-meter is so much easier to fly in. But once you're able to fly in ground effect, get a little bit better at it, all of a sudden you break into full-blown flight, and then the world is your airport. And you can fly over old windmills in Amsterdam, while some guy's making a video directly under the flight path because he thought it would be, I don't know, more interesting. Try to talk over the oncoming airplane. So this has been Socrates Explains Everything, how birds develop flight here in Alsmere, under the flight path in the area of Schiphol Airport. Signing off once again. It's up there somewhere. Hopefully.